Well, if you've been watching my channel for at least some time, you probably know that this news essentially that Johnson is going to wait on the US election result before making a decision on whether to go for do a Brexit deal essentially with Europe or just go for a no deal. So this should come as no surprise. We've talked about this before. Why? Well, the pillar on pretty much which Brexit has been built on has been that the Brexiteers are absolutely desperate, salivating at the mouth almost for a deal with the US. Now, why are they so desperate to do a deal with the US? First of all, this deal does nothing for us. It does not replace what we lose from not being in the single market. First of all, it only gives us about 0.2% GDP, and in those numbers, that is nothing. Yes, it's a lot of money to a single person, but when you're talking countries' GDP, 0.2% is a single point higher than the entire UK fishing industry is worth. So we've got a very serious problem, because this is what they're so desperate for, to do this deal. Not only that, what this does is this opens up this entire free market fundamentalist ideology that they can start parceling and selling off UK businesses to the US, pretty much like we're seeing with ARM at the moment. I did a video on that sale that's been going through at the moment. Go and watch it. Trust me, that is probably the first of many companies that are just going to go, Americans are just going to come along and just go yoink into the US. So we've got a very serious problem coming. Not only that, but this opens up massive areas of privatization, not only even more into our public life, not only in just services, but the NHS critically as well, because the Americans are going to be absolutely wanting a slice of the NHS. So, what was said? Now, this comment has come from the UK ambassador. What was the former Roger? The former Roger from Ivan Rogers. Sorry, the former UK ambassador to the EU. So we're going to go over the article now. See what he had to say. Then we'll go over what I think the two ways of this, whether if Biden wins or Trump wins, what those directions are. So the article one comes from is The Observer, and it's Johnson will wait for US election results before no deal Brexit decision. Senior figures in European governments believe that Boris Johnson is waiting for the result of the US presidential election before finally deciding whether to risk plunging the UK into a no-deal Brexit, according to a former British ambassador to the EU. Now, why is he waiting for that? Well, he wants to see what he can get. He thinks that if he does go for a no deal, that Trump will give him a really good deal. It won't be a good deal for us in any way slightest, but as we've said at the beginning of this video, the entire Brexit argument was based on that we could get this amazing trade deal with the US. And it's not going to be amazing in any way, shape or form, I'll tell you that now. So Ivan Rogers, who was the UK's permanent representative in Brussels from 2013 to 2017, told The Observer that he had that a view shared by ministers and officials he has talked with in recent weeks in several European capitals is that Johnson is biding his time and is much more likely to opt for a no deal if his friend and Brexit supporter Donald Trump prevails over the Democratic challenger Joe Biden. Rogers said, "Several very senior sources in capitals have told me that they believe Johnson will await clarity on the presidential election result before finally determining whether to jump to no deal with the EU, or to conclude that this is just way too risky with Biden heading for the White House, and hence live with some highly suboptimal for Johnson skinny free trade agreement." The former ambassador to the EU, who quit under Theresa May's premiership because of disagreements over Brexit strategy, remains in regular contact with senior government officials in EU capitals. Rogers said that if Trump won, he and others in Europe believed Johnson would think that history was going his way. With his right-wing ally still in the White House, the Prime Minister would therefore be more likely to conclude that he could strike a quick and substantial post-Brexit US-UK trade deal than if Biden emerged as a president after the 3rd of November poll. By contrast, a Biden administration would prioritise rebuilding relations with the EU that have been damaged by Trump. We already went over this last week, by the way, about what Biden would do in the White House. So if you want to go check that out, go check that out. Like I say, that was only just a couple of days ago, so you'll be able to find it pretty easily. So Rogers joined other former UK diplomats last night, warning that a Democratic administration under Biden would prove highly problematic for Johnson and the UK government, threatening the so-called special relationship. Again, we've already talked about that last week. This is why this was absolutely no surprise when I heard this. No surprise at all. So he said, they also went on to say, I don't think either Biden or his core team are anti-British, but I think they are unimpressed by both Johnson and his top team, he said. They believe him to have been an early and vigorous supporter of Trump, and that the Brexiteer thinking, which they think has damaged the unity of the West, has many parallels with Trumpism. So I really doubt there will be much warmth in the personal relationship, and Biden would simply not be an administrative which viewed European integration as a negative. So his administration would be all for more European integration. And what have we just done? We've left that. The UK's absence from the EU will make it clearly less influential, because it can no longer lead European thinking on the geostrategic issues which matter hugely to Biden. So Biden will put Berlin and Paris, and indeed Brussels, back at the heart of US thinking. Not uncritically, because with the US will still have some serious issues with European approaches on economic and security issues. Kim Jorok, a former UK ambassador to Washington, who quit the post in 2019 after leaking the Democratic cables in which he criticised the Trump administration as inept, said that Biden might even favour a US-EU trade deal over one with the UK. He went on to say, whoever wins in November, the bedrock of the relationship, defence, security and intelligence collaboration, will remain as strong as ever. But if it's Biden, there are likely to be some issues. The Democrats don't like or even support Brexit. They may prioritise deals with the Pacific region or even the EU over a UK-US deal. They will block a trade deal if they think that we are putting the Good Friday Agreement at risk. Again, we've already said that. That has been on the cards regardless, and they will block it even if Trump wins. But we'll get into that in a moment. And also, they remember and resent Johnson's comments in 2016 that, quote, the part Kenyan president having an ancestral dislike of the British Empire. Not to mention Johnson telling US diplomats that Trump was making America great again. Last week, the International Trade Secretary Liz Truss insisted that a deal with the EU could still be done, although substantial disagreements remain before the Brexit transition period ends on the 31st of December. The main problem areas are, of course, fishing, post-Brexit competition rules, and how any deal would be enforced. Jonathan Powell, who served as a diplomat in Washington in the 1990s before becoming Tony Blair's chief of staff and taking control of the negotiations that led to the Good Friday Agreement, said that Biden believed that Johnson had imperiled the Irish peace process. He said that Biden is very proud of his Irish ancestry. He has always been active on the Northern Ireland issue since even before I was in Washington. He takes a close interest in the Northern Irish peace process and sees it as an outrage that Johnson, in his cavalier manner, threatened peace in Northern Ireland for something so little. So that to him is going to be chalked completely up against him. In Washington, there's also plenty of foreign policy advisors around Biden who worked in the Obama administration and have not forgiven Johnson for his part Kenyan comments. The camp sees Johnson as part of the same populist phenomenon that brought Trump to power, and from the Democrats' point of view, the UK outside the EU will make it less important as a partner on the world stage. In all these giant issues, tech, disinformation, and China, and trade, the position of the EU on those issues is just a lot more important than the position of the UK, said Ben Rhodes, Obama's foreign policy advisor. For these big ticket items, I think Brussels, Berlin, and Paris are just much more in the middle of it all than London will be. The Foreign Office and Downing Street officials have downplayed the prospect of the difficulties of the special relationship. If Biden wins, they point out the UK will have opportunities to take the lead on the world stage and build relationships with a new US administration. They cite the fact that the UK will chair the UN Security Council from February and the rotating presidency of the G7 from the US, as well as hosting the 26th Conference of Parties on Climate Change in Glasgow in November 2021. Climate is really important, a British official said. That's really going to help you because you've seen a lot of comments from Biden about how important that is to him. And since we're leading on COPE, it will become something where we will instantly recognise our value and our importance. A Downing Street spokesperson also said, the US election is an internal matter for the US. We welcome the intensive talks taking place with the EU in London over the weekend, where for the first time we'll be negotiating on legal text and across all areas at the same time. We've been clear for our ambition for a while now that we want to achieve and reach a free trade agreement that respects us as a sovereign nation, and we want to achieve this as soon as possible. Well, first of all, you can't, because if you do want to sign a free trade agreement, that means that you have to be willing to give up some sovereignty. That is how modern economics works. But anyway, we're in an interesting position. So what happens? Well, as I said, there are really two positions here. One, if Biden wins. And ultimately, at the moment, when you look at all the polls, Biden is pretty much winning. He is set to take even what have been some pretty much safe Republican things. There's a potential opportunity that Biden could take Texas. That would be huge. And I've reiterated this before. I would love to do a stream on election night and just watch what happens, because I think you could see a lot of interesting things happen. It may just turn out to be boring, and to be honest, I hope it turns out to be boring. But on the off chance it does turn out to be quite exciting, it might be worth watching anyway. So what happens in a Biden win? Well, as we've said there, you have more clear evidence that people in a Biden administration would not view the UK as a very important partner, as it was said there, and as we have said for so long. If we leave the European Union, we leave so much of what we call our soft power, and Britain is famous for its soft power influences, and we have lost so much, not only by leaving the European Union, but in acting as we have done across this entire negotiating period. We have lost even more soft power because of that. So we are looking, if a Biden win does win, and it's looking very likely that he will win, he will just pretty much ignore and not prioritise a US-UK trade deal, because it's just worth nothing to the US. And at the end of the day, it's worth nothing to us either, despite that being the core pillar and agreement which Brexit is built on. Now, if Trump wins, and that's a big if Trump wins, because, like I say, he ain't doing very well in the polls. In fact, Biden, I believe, at the moment, is 10 points ahead. And I think in recent elections, That's the first time I think that a potential president has like had such a gigantic lead in quite some time. So yeah, it's not looking very good for Trump. So, but what happens if Trump wins? Well, Johnson, as was said there, will think that history is on his side, and he will jump to a no deal straight away because he won't care about doing a deal with Europe. Eventually, he will have to do some deal with Europe, and he will do like the skinniest deals possible on like very small sectors. But he and other Brexiteers are desperate because a US UK trade deal is what they see as the golden grail. This is what will create more privatization opportunities. This will be the free market fundamentalist dream because they will be able to bypass so much regulation just by doing one trade deal. And as I've said before, we will not know what is in this trade deal until it's signed on the dotted line. So if this does turn out to be an absolutely awful trade deal, we can't protest it. We can't say don't sign it because it's signed already. And we will pretty much have to be told by Washington, although, again, why do Brexit supporters not like being told what to do by Europe, but have no problem being told what to do by the US? It doesn't make a damn bit of sense, but there you go. So those are really the two big situations. And ultimately, I do think that Biden is more likely to win. And I do think, as was clearly said there, he is going to prioritize rebuilding the relationship with the EU over us. We're not even going to be in it, to be honest. He's going to prioritize Berlin, Paris, and Brussels. And you have that said very clearly by some very high-ranking officials. So, once again, as we said many, many years ago, 4 years ago now, that if the if Britain does leave the European Union, we will be viewed as a lesser power. We will not have as much power as we believe, despite the fact that Brexiteers trumpeted us as this great trading nation that, you know, everyone's going to be queuing up to do trade deals with. No one's queuing up to do trade deals with us because they're all bemused and incredibly confused by the fact that we've left the European Union and the single market. But that's Brexit really in a nutshell. So, please do hit that like and share button. And also, if you are new, please do hit that subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you would like to support the channel in a different way as well, we do have links down below to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link. And thank you to all the people who do support me in that way. Your support is very, very much appreciated. And with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time.